Assalamu alaikum, and good day. Welcome to this hour's top news update from Zir News 24. Today is Friday, the 3rd of Asad, 1404 in the Hijri solar calendar, corresponding to the 25th of July, 2025. I'm Pashtana Aoryakhila, and here are the latest national and international headlines from Zir News 24. First, the headlines. Afghanistan faces another refugee crisis. Over 500,000 Afghans have been forcibly deported from Iran in the past 15 days, intensifying the country's ongoing humanitarian disaster. Child mortality rate rising in Afghanistan. CNN reports that the child mortality rate has increased by 3 to 4%. Starvation deepens in Gaza. The death toll due to hunger has risen to 111 as Israel maintains its siege on the Gaza Strip. Israeli parliament approves symbolic annexation bill for West Bank territories. Details of the news. Afghanistan is unable to withstand another wave of refugee returns. Over 500,000 Afghans have been deported from Iran in just the past 15 days, exacerbating an already dire humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. According to the United Nations, more than 700,000 Afghans returned from Iran during the first 6 months of 2025. However, between June 24th and July 9th alone, the number soared to over 500,000. The New York Times reports that by mid-July, the total number of returnees since the start of the year reached 1.4 million and may rise to 4 million by year-end. Approximately 20,000 people are currently entering Afghanistan daily from Iran. UNICEF estimates that this year, 23 million Afghans, over half the population, will need humanitarian assistance. UNDP says 97% of Afghans live below the poverty line and 69% are unemployed. Meanwhile, since 2021, global humanitarian aid to Afghanistan has sharply declined, with only 22% of the UN's funding target fulfilled so far. In addition to Iran, Pakistan is also increasing pressure for Afghan refugees to return. Afghanistan's child mortality rate rises by 3 to 4%. CNN reports that Afghanistan's child mortality rate has increased by 3 to 4%. The halt of $1.7 billion in U.S. assistance, $500 million of which was still unpaid, has had a devastating impact on the Afghan people. Following the U.S. decision, countries like the UK, France, and Germany also reduced their aid. According to analysts in The Lancet, the termination of this aid may result in the deaths of over 14 million people in the next 5 years, including about 5 million children under the age of 5. Afghanistan already had one of the world's highest maternal mortality rates. The UNFPA states that every 2 hours, an Afghan woman dies due to pregnancy or childbirth complications, often preventable with adequate care. Around 40% of health centers have shut down. On the other hand, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio claimed that no one has died due to the closure of USAID, asserting that only programs aligned with U.S. policy would continue. Critics in the U.S. argue that this reflects a Trump-era policy shift, which disrupted America's global aid system. Meanwhile, Congressman Tim Burchett claimed $40 million per week is still reaching the Afghan government, though SIGAR data shows around $10.9 million in payments and services went to the Taliban-led Afghanistan between 2021 to 2023, likely more than officially reported, but far less than Burchett claims. Afghanistan signs dozens of mining contracts. The Ministry of Mines and Petroleum announced that in the past year, 42 small and 10 large-scale mining contracts have been signed. Deputy Minister Maulawi Hossamuddin Sabri outlined key achievements, including identifying 378 mineral sites, preparing 400 technical maps, and analyzing 3,875 samples. Since 2021, 175 small-scale contracts worth 10 billion Afghanis have been approved. In addition, Afghanistan now produces more salt than its annual domestic need, producing 344,000 tons compared to a demand of 300,000 tons. The Shaibargan-Mazar gas pipeline is complete and will transfer 1.5 million cubic meters of gas daily. 7 gas wells in Yatim Tak have also been activated, each with a 100 cubic meter daily output. Ministry of Rural Rehabilitation implements major infrastructure projects. Acting Minister Mullah Mohammad Yunus Akhundzada reported significant progress, including the Kach Samad Dam in Farah worth 2 billion Afghanis. 842 clean water projects have been completed, with 559 underway. Road construction spans 195 kilometers. Major projects include retaining walls in Spin Boldak and a water system in Kale Na. In 13 provinces, 143 check dams were built at a cost of 426 million Afghanis. Surveys and designs for projects in Farah, Helmand, Logar, and others are complete, with implementation soon to begin. Iran claims to host 3 to 4 million Afghan migrants with dignity. As Iran continues forced deportations of Afghan refugees, Interior Minister Ahmad Vahidi told UNHCR Commissioner Filippo Grandi that Afghan migrants are respected and legally employed in Iran. However, Afghan returnees at the Islam Kala border refute this, stating they faced school closures, discrimination, and abuse. Grandi, who recently visited Afghanistan, met with deportees and witnessed their suffering firsthand. Many returned empty-handed, lacking food, medicine, or shelter. The UN reports that around 1 million Afghans were forcibly returned in the past month, including women, children, and the elderly. Iran promises online education for Afghan students, but critics warn of indoctrination. Iran's education minister, Ali Reza Kazemi, promised to offer online classes for Afghan children. While framed as humanitarian aid, critics warn it may be a strategy for ideological influence. These programs are often donor-funded through agencies like UNHCR and UNICEF, but lack transparency and may promote Iran's political and cultural narratives. Afghan families say their children were either denied access to schools or suffered humiliation and discrimination. A young girl from Mashhad, crying, said, "Every day they told us we're not equal because we're Afghan." Analysts urge that any such education should align with Afghan language, culture, religion, and be coordinated with national authorities, not serve as a vehicle for foreign influence. The Islamic Emirate has been criticized for banning girls from secondary education, leaving families with little choice but to accept Iran's education offers. Now, turning to international developments. Starvation deepens in Gaza. 10 more deaths reported. 10 more Palestinians have died of starvation in Gaza, bringing the total to 111. According to WHO, 21 of the deceased were under 5 years old. Relief agencies warn that while thousands of tons of aid are blocked at Gaza's border, famine is spreading. Israel has halted nearly all supplies since March, allowing limited entry via U.S.-backed efforts. Reports state at least 100 Palestinians were killed in the last 24 hours, 34 of whom were seeking food aid. Hospitals are overwhelmed, and widespread hunger continues as ceasefire negotiations remain unresolved. Israeli parliament passes symbolic West Bank annexation bill. On Wednesday, Israel's Knesset approved a symbolic resolution urging full annexation of the occupied West Bank areas of Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley. Though non-binding, the motion passed with 71 votes in favor and 13 against. The Palestinian Authority condemned it as a violation of international law and an obstacle to a two-state solution. UN and international leaders warn that annexation threatens the prospects of an independent Palestinian state. Saudi Arabia signs investment deals with Syria worth $6 billion. Saudi Arabia's investment minister, Khalid al-Falih, led a 130-member delegation to Syria to sign investment agreements worth $4 to $6 billion, including cement plants and telecom ventures. This marks a new phase in Saudi-Syrian relations after years of isolation and conflict. Joint investment councils and infrastructure projects signal growing cooperation between the two nations. Zelensky promises anti-corruption law revision. Under pressure from domestic protests and EU criticism, Ukrainian President Zelensky has pledged to revise a controversial law that would undermine anti-corruption bodies. Critics argue the law threatens institutional independence and EU membership prospects. Thousands have rallied across Ukraine in opposition. Zelensky has vowed the new version will preserve transparency and accountability. Now let's turn to sports. Amo Sharks defeat Spingar Tigers by 3 wickets. Amo registered their third win in the 2025 Shpagiza League, beating Spingar by 3 wickets in a thrilling match. Snooker player Mohamed Saleh eliminated from Bahrain Championship. Afghan snooker champion Mohamed Saleh lost to China's Chen Kun 4-1, and exited the Six Red Ball Championship despite earlier victories over Oman, Bahrain, and Scotland. Cricket and football tournaments wrap up across the country. In Paktika's Sarobi, Master Gohar won the local tape ball cricket championship among 40 teams. In Gardez, Paktia, Hyder Karar FC claimed the football title in a 10-team friendly tournament. That's all for today's broadcast. Follow Zir News 24 on Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube for updates. Until tomorrow, Allah Hafiz.